the Haftorah of Parshas Mikets which we did not read this morning because it is Chanukah, so we read instead Roni v'Simchi b'Tzion. But the Haftorah of Parshas Mikets as such, when Parshas Mikets doesn't fall on Chanukah, it doesn't follow with Rosh Chodesh together, otherwise there would have been the Haftorah of Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. If there would have been only Shabbos on Parshas Mikets, then we would have read the Haftorah which is taken from Melochim Aleph, Kapitel Gimel, about Shlomo HaMelech and his judgment with the two women and the two babies. The famous judgment of Shlomo HaMelech, who had to give a judgment for this argument between the two women. We had a baby at the same time in the same room, and one woman exchanged her dead baby for the baby of her neighbor who was alive. That is the Haftorah which we would have read if Parshas Miketz would have been on its own. Now, the context of this Haftorah starts from in Givon. The Torah tells us in Melochim Aleph, Kapitel Gimel, that while Shlomo HaMelech was in Givon, he had a dream. And in that dream, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked him, Mo etein loch, what do you want? I shall give you, Shlomo. And Shlomo said, I have become a king instead of David my father. I'm an na'ar kotoin. I'm a young lad. He was 12 years old. A child king he was. V'anoichi na'ar kotoin. I'm a young lad. Lo eida tzeis vovoi. And I do not know my way about. How to lead the people. And your servant, meaning himself, I'm in the midst of your people, Asher B'chortu whom you have chosen amongst all the nations of the earth. Amrov, a great people, many, numerous people, Asher lo yimone v'lo yisofer merov, which cannot be counted because there are so many. Therefore, v'nosato le'avdecho lev shomeya, I beg you, please, give to your servant a heart that can hear, lishpoit esamcho, to judge your people. Lehovin ben toiv lera, to understand, a heart which can understand the difference between good and bad. Because who is able to judge your heavy people? That's what Shlomo HaMelech answered in his dream. And the pasuk goes on, Vayita v'adovor b'nei Hashem. This request of Shlomo pleased Hashem very much. Ki shoal Shlomo es hadovor hazeh. Because Shlomo had asked chokhmah, wisdom. Vayomer Elokim, and Hashem said to Shlomo, Ya'an asher sho'alto es hadover hazeh, because you have asked this thing, v'lo sho'alto lecho, and you did not ask for yourself, yomim rabim, a long life, v'lo sho'alto lecho oisher, and you did not ask for yourself wealth, v'lo sho'alto nefesh oivecho, you did not ask the lives of your enemies. In other words, to be victorious in battle. against your enemies. V'sha'alta lecho, and you only asked, Hovin, to understand, lishmoya mishpot, to hear a judgment. Therefore, Hinei, behold, osisi kidvorecho, I have done as you request. Hinei, behold, nosati lecho, I have given to you, leiv chocham v'novoin, a wise heart and intelligent, asher komoicho lo hoyo lefonecho, that as wise as you, there was never someone before you, ve'acharecho lo yokum komoicho, and no one will be as wise as you after you, also not. V'gam, and also, asher lo shoalto, what you have not asked, nosati loch, I have given you, gam oisher, also wisdom, wealth, gam kovoid, also honor, asher lo hoyo komoicho ish bamlochim kol yomecho. There was no other king like you who will be as wealthy and as strong in power all your life. Now, what about long life? Because it was said, why didn't he was pleased that he did not ask long life, yomim rabim, v'im teilech bidrochai, and if you go in my commandments, lishmor chukai, o mitzvosai, to keep my commandments, kasher olach David avicho, the same as your father David went, ve'arachti es yomecho, then I'll make you live very long. That's the end of the dream. Vayikat Shloimo. Shloimo woke up. V'hinei chalom. And that's where the Haftorah starts. Because it's the same wording as in the Parsha, Vayikat Paroi. V'hinei chaloim. Vayikat Shloimo v'hinei chaloim. Vayovo Yerushalayim. And he came to Yerushalayim, vayamod lifnei oren beris Hashem. And he stood up in front of the Ark of the Covenant of Hashem. Vayal oilois, and he brought oilois. Vayas shlomim, and shlomim. Vayas mishtel chol avodov, and he made a feast for all his servants. To thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for the wonderful dream he had made. But not just for the dream, because the Medrash says on here, Vayikat Shloimo v'hinei chaloim, not like the hinei chaloim of Paroi. He woke up and he realized he had dreamed, but he didn't know what it meant. Here, vatipoem ruchoi, and he became very agitated because he did not know what his dreams meant, Paroi. Here it says, Vayikat Shloimo v'hinei chaloim, but there was no vatipoem ruchoi. He was very happy about the chalom. He knew what he had dreamt. And also Chazal say, v'hinei chaloim, he woke up, he heard the birds tweeting. Did you say tweeting? Twittering. On the branches of the tree, he heard the cock chanting cock-a-doodle-doo. He heard the cow mooing, and he knew exactly what they were saying. We hear birds twittering. Oh, it's a nice song, but what kind of bird is it? Is it a robin? Is it a... What is it? We don't know. A nightingale. But Shloimo HaMelech, he knew exactly what they were saying. V'hinei chaloim, on this pasuk. That means, nosati lecho, in the dream, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, not etei lecho. It was not a promise. It was a fact. Nosati lecho. And for the wealth also, nosati lecho, gam moisher, gam kovod. I have given you already. And he woke up V'hinei chaloim doesn't mean it's a dream and I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. V'hinei chaloim means it was a dream, but that dream already realized itself. And therefore he made a big feast. And then, Oz, at that time, maybe the same day, or a few days later, Tovoino shtayim noshim zoinos el hamelech v'ta'amoidno lefonov. Those two women came in front of the king with an argument. And one woman said, Bi Adoini, Your Majesty, the king, my master, I and that woman who stands against me, we were dwelling in one room, and I had a baby with her in the same room. On the third day of me giving birth to my baby, she also gave birth to her baby. And we were together. No one else was in the room except us two, alone. This woman's baby died one night that she slept on top of him. And the baby suffocated. And she woke up in the middle of the night, and she took my baby who was alive. I was asleep. And she made him lie down in her bosom with her in bed. And her baby was dead. She put next to me in my bosom. And I got up in the morning to feed my baby, and behold, he was dead. And I looked a bit close on him in the morning, because before it was not yet light. And behold, that was not my baby which I had given birth to. That is the person that is Toiveya, who is demanding justice from the king. She says, this woman has my baby, and she gave me a dead baby. The other woman who had taken the baby said, Lo, it's not true what she's saying. My baby is the live one, and your baby is the dead one. And the other one says, no, your baby is the dead one, and my baby is the live one. And the king said, all right, if I understood clearly, he was 12 years old. If I understood clearly, this one says, my baby is the live one and your baby is the dead one, and the other one says, no, your baby is the dead one and my baby is the live one. What did you have to repeat that? Chazal learned from here, a dayan has always to repeat before he puts a psak din, he has to repeat exactly the arguments of each one, should be clarified. And then the king said, okay, now, I'm going to give my judgment. My captain of guards, go and fetch a sword. They brought a sword in front of the king. And the king said, cut the baby who is alive in two parts and give one half to one woman and the other half to the other woman. There was a big gasp in the audience. Gewalt, what is he doing? Our king of ours, Nebuch. He's stupid, he's idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. So says the Medrash. The counselors that were surrounding the king, those old wise people with white beard that had counseled David HaMelech, the father of the king, they said, Oy Eretz shemalkech nar. Oy, the land whose king is a young boy. And nar also means a tipesh. As it says, nar ivri, as she says, shoite. It means here shoite. Oy malkech. Oy Eretz shemalkech nar, doesn't know how to give justice. Doesn't know how to give a judgment. That's the way how to give justice. the baby was alive to cut him in two. And the Medrash says, Shlomo HaMelech said, now, I want to explain to you how you are going to cut him in two. And this is a new thing which people don't know, unless you have read the Medrash. He said like this, do you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, 2 hands in a person? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu foretold that there was going to be such a judgment, and he wanted each one of the women to have at least an equal part, with 1 eye, 1 ear, 1 leg, 1 hand. Do you hear that? So do not cut him on the waist, cut him in the length. Otherwise it's not equal part. Oh, that's the judgment of the Kibbutz. You know, we know the story already, so it doesn't move us. But if we would have been there, in the Medrash, there's an Amoira that says, if I would have been there, I would have taken a lump of wool and thrown it on Shlomo HaMelech's head, instead of rotten tomatoes, rotten eggs. That's my addition. Mit Rachmonis, with Chesed. A lump of wool, says the Medrash. If I would have been there, one of the Aviga Moraim, he wouldn't have foretold, he wouldn't have guessed the trick which Shlomo HaMelech was playing at. The same as all the counselors, all the old counselors of the king, those old wise men. And then the king said, before you cut him into 2, I want to see if the parties agree to my judgment. So what do you think of it? You, the demander, the one that demands justice. She said, the woman whose baby was the one who was alive. She said to the king, because her pity had been moved on her son, and she said, please, your majesty, I forego my request. Give her the baby who is alive. Do not kill him. And what do you say? The other one who holds the baby in her arm. She says, no, I think that is the right way to judge. At least, not me, not her, will have the child alive. I prefer that than she should have my baby. Cut it into 2. So then the king said, give her the baby alive to the first one, the one who wants the baby alive. Do not kill him. She is the mother. He was 12 years old. Vayishmeu kol Yisrael es ha-mishpot. All the Yidden heard the judgment of the king, and they feared the king because they saw that the wisdom of God was in his midst, inside him, to do mishpat. It's a wonderful story, this. A wonderful story. What was the wisdom of which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Shlomo HaMelech? To know psychology, how a mother reacts. Now, who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that a mother would do such a thing? No mother in the world would say, cut the baby into 2 halves. Such a plain common sense, isn't it? We don't understand. Did you need for that Chochmas Elokim? The wisdom of God, did you need for that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give him such a tremendous wisdom that there was no wisdom like that before and after. We give an example. What was the wisdom? What was the best example of the Chochmah of Shlomo HaMelech? Like it says about Moshiach, Va'aricho beyiras Hashem. The Mashiach will just smell the parties who come to be judged in front of him. Just smell. Will sniff. Who is right? Who is wrong? It's an example. It doesn't mean sniffing mamish. Maybe it does. There's a story in the Zohar. Just by sniffing. But it means like Shlomo HaMelech. To have an intuition, like something to feel the ground. Is he telling the truth? Who is telling the truth? Who is telling? This woman who was saying, cut it into two, that's the right judgment. Better that no one should have it than the wrong person. What does it mean, that? That means she is not the mother. If she would have been the mother, she wouldn't have spoken like that. She was jealous. Gam li, gam loch lo yeh. It's preferable not you, not me should have it. Jealousy. You know the story with the two people that came in front of the king. The king wanted to reward one of the two soinim, two enemies. He said, "What do you want? I'll give double to your enemy." So he said, "Please blind me one eye." He's ready to get one eye blinded, to lose one eye, abi, only for the purpose that his enemy should have both, should be completely blind. That is the hate. That is the extreme of hatred. He also cut the child into better, no one should have it, than the wrong person who doesn't deserve, who is not the right mother. And then the Pasuk goes on to tell us like this. Vayiten in capital Hey. Vayiten Eloikim chochmo lishloimo svuno harbe me'oid. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Shlomo great wisdom, loads of wisdom, v'rochav lev, and a very wide heart, meaning to understand things, kachol, like the sand asher al sfas hayom, which is at the side of the sea. V'aterev chochmas Shlomo mechochmas kol bnei kedem. And the wisdom of Shlomo was more than the chochmah of all the East wise men. Umikol chochmas Mitzrayim, and then all the chochmah of Egypt. Chachomim, Chachmei Mitzrayim, were the greatest on earth. Vayirka mikol odom, it became wiser than all the men. Chazal say mikol odom, he became wiser than Odom Arishon. Mikol odom. Me'eson Ezrachi, more wiser than Avrom Avinu. It's called Eson Ezrachi. Vehemon, that is Moshe, wiser than Moshe. V'chalkol is Yosef. V'yichalkel Yosef. V'chalkol is Yosef. He became wiser than Yosef. And Yosef was very wise. And Chacham v'novan komoicho. In the whole world, in that time, there was no one as clever, as wise as Yosef. And he was also very young, 17 years old. V'darda, Dordeye, Chazal say. Darda, Dordeye. He became wiser than the Dor HaMidbar who received the Torah. Vayish moy b'chol hagoyim soviv. All the nations around became aware of the big wisdom of Shlomo HaMelech. And then he goes on to tell us all the mesholim which he had said and so on. So, if I would ask you, and here I want to start my lesson, if you understand the lesson. If I would ask you a question here, Vayiten Eloikim chochma lishloimo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Shlomo such a chochma, more than Odom, more than Avrom, more than Moshe, more than Yosef, more than the Dor HaMidbar. Thanks to what did he give this chochma to? Because of the dream, isn't it? That was the realization of the dream that Shlomo HaMelech had dreamt in Givor. Right? Yes, that's what you would have said. Now, I'll read you a medrash Well, everybody would have said like this. I would also have said that. If not that I had read the Medrash beforehand, the Medrash says like this. The Medrash is on Kapitel Gimel. When Shlomo HaMelech in the dream asks the Rebbeinu Shalom, please give me a heart that understands Mishpat, how to judge. The Medrash asks like this. Efsher Shlomo lohoyo yochel lodunes Yisrael. Was Shlomo could not, at that time before the dream, Shlomo could not judge the Klal Yisrael. He was lacking wisdom because he was 12 years old. But it says in the Kapitel Hey, Vayitein Hashem chochma lishloimo vayichkam mikol odom. That later on it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Shloimo such a chochma more than Odom HaRishon and all the others. He was not able to judge the Klal Yisrael. He had to ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, I am a very young lad, and therefore give me wisdom to judge the Klal Yisrael. He already had it. As it says later, Vayiten Hashem chochma lishloimo. So what does he say in the Medrash here? He says in the Medrash that this Vayiten Hashem chochma lishloimo, Kapitel Hey, is not because of the dream. Sai v'sai. Anyhow, he would have got it. Vayiten Hashem chochma lishloimo. Shloimo was such a person on his own, without the dream, to have such a chochma greater than Odom, greater than Avram, greater than Yosef, greater than Moshe, without the dream. So why did you have to ask in the dream? Chochma. That's the question of the Medrash. Hello, but Kach omar Shloimo. Shloimo said like this. I am not the same as a judge of the Goyim. He sits on his platform there in the court, justice court. He sends people to be killed, to be strangled, to be burned, to be stoned. He doesn't care. If I tell someone to pay money and he doesn't have to pay it, nefoshes ani nitva, I will be asked, nefoshes, blood is on my hand. As it says in the Pasuk, al tigzol dal, do not steal the poor, kidalu, the kovais koiveim nofesh. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ask from them blood. When we hear about those judgments, about the old pensioner, poor man who has to pay the burglar. They care. What do they care? Let the murderers roam in the street. Pay, the the victim has to pay. It disturbs me. I feel bad. I've got blood in my hands if I make the wrong judgment. And therefore, please, Rebbeinu Shalom, this chochmeh which you will give me, sai v'sai, is not enough. I want more chochmeh. Because I might go wrong. Nefoshes. That's what the Medrash says. Nefoshes. Chochmeh, I want chochmeh. No money. I don't want money. No arichus yomi. I don't want arichus yomi. No victory. I don't need it. I just don't want blood on my hands. We must say like that, because the Medrash says on this passage, emotion. Why did Shlomo HaMelech not ask? Why did he not ask wealth? The jackpot. $1 million. Yeah, tonight. We would say, for example, tonight we are learning a bit of Chochmeh here, yes? That's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the jackpot. You can keep the jackpot. I've got a shear from Rabbi שוורץ. Well, that's not the Chochmeh of Shlomo HaMelech. But it's a bit, we are talking about the Chochmeh of Shlomo. We are going to learn how to become like him. How was that Shlomo HaMelech, at 12 years old, had such a tremendous wisdom to ask for wisdom? Because that's what it is. There's a posuk, Yohiv Chochmeso LaChakimin, in Daniel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to those who are wise. So the question is, the Matronise asked one of the Tanoim, what is the pshat she learned in Daniel? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to those who are wise. He should have said in the posuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to the idiots. Those who need wisdom. But those who are wise, they don't need it. So why did he say in the posuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to those who are wise? So he answered an answer, which push her away. But the real answer is what? That to receive wisdom, one has to ask for it. One has to appreciate it. He has to want it. Otherwise, he won't keep it inside him. He will reject it. He will lose it. He has to appreciate Chochmeh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives Chochmeh to those who are wise enough to appreciate Chochmeh. Shlomo HaMelech, if he asked for Chochmeh, that is because he already had Chochmeh in him. So therefore, this capital Hey, when it says that Shlomo HaMelech HaKadosh gave him such a Chochmeh more than Moshe Rabbeinu, that was the Chochmeh which was needed in order to ask Chochmeh in a dream, and not wealth, and not victory. For that you need a tremendous amount of Chochmeh. There is a mashal which the Medrash says on this. The Medrash says, mashal to a person who was very mechubed and loved by a king. So the king said, you ask me what you want, I'll give you. So that person was mechubed by the king, said to himself, if I ask him gold, he'll give me gold. If I ask him gems, he'll give me gems. I'll ask him his daughter in marriage. Once I get his daughter in marriage, I have all the rest as well. Clever fellow. The Medrash says that was Shlomo HaMelech. You hear that? Shlomo HaMelech did not relinquish wealth and victory and all the rest. That's the chiddush of this Medrash. He was a clever man. He knew to ask Bitoy Shel Melech, the daughter of the king. What is the daughter of the king? Melech Malchei Hamlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is Chochmeh, Ruach HaKodesh. That is, I'm going to ask his daughter. The daughter of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Chochmeh. Once I asked his daughter, I've got Chochmeh, I've got all the rest. All the rest I have. Everything is included in Chochmeh. Arichus Yomim, victory, protection, gvura, power, money. Everything is included in Chochmeh. So my Chavruse asked me this question. My Chavruse asked me this question. Oy bazoi, if so, when we read in the Pasuk, we see the godless of Shlomo. He did not ask for money. He did not ask for victory. But he just asked for Chochmeh. That means he was Meichel. I don't need wealth. I don't need victory. I don't need fame. I don't need power. I just want Chochmeh. Those are godless. That's a godless. That's a great thing to ask. But according to the Medrash, we are diminishing the mile of Shlomo HaMelech. According to the Medrash, there was an interest in Shlomo HaMelech's request, because he realized by asking Chochmah he would get all the rest as well. So it's not as good as a good quality as to ask for Chochmah and not without any ulterior motive that to have also the money and so on. There is a Gemara in Maseches Broches, which way you should turn in the Shemoneh Esrei? To the southeast or to the south-north? What's the problem? The problem is that in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, the Shulchan was to the north, and the Menorah was to the south, entering in the Kodesh Kodashim. So the Menorah is a sign for Chochmah. Kiner mitzvah v'toire oir, right? The Shulchan is the remez for Shulchan Melochim, wealth. A person who wants to become wealthy, let him turn a bit northeast. A person who wants to be wise, to have a lot of Chochmah, let him turn to the south, because the Menorah is at the south. And then the Gemara answers, the conclusion is no. Whatever you want to become, wise or wealthy, turn to the south. Because mitoich shu machkim umashich. Once he gets wise, he becomes rich as well. And there's a pasuk. Ki betzela chochma betzela kesef. In the shadow of wisdom, there is also the shadow of money. So the question Machavos asked him, why does the Medrash bother to say such a mashal to diminish the quality of Shlomo HaMelech? So that's what we answered. I answered very easily. We all know that by asking wisdom we'll become wealthy. So why do we insist in buying a lottery ticket? Why don't we take instead a Chumash Rashi and try to become a bit wiser? And people say, Shlomo HaMelech, it's nicht kein godless. Shlomo HaMelech, it's not a godless to ask for wisdom. Because he knew the trick. If he asked for the Bito Shel Melech, then he'll also get the rest. Aha! So you mean to say that it was not a godless for Shlomo HaMelech to ask for wisdom? What about you? You know that if you become wise, you become rich. So why don't you try to become wise? What's the answer? We are lacking this wisdom to realize that. We know it, but we don't know it. We know it, but we don't know it enough that it should bring to us an urge, instead of going and buy a lottery ticket, which numbers, my birthday numbers, and then, I'm going to win. From where do you know you're going to win? How do you know? Have you got a guarantee? Wo steht das, you're going to win? But Shlomo HaMelech knew. And later on, the Torah says, the streets of Yerushalayim were paved with silver, pure silver. Silver was counted as stone. Such wealth, such a power. All from what? From Chachmah, from wisdom. If we would be convinced that it is so, then Take, we would ask only for one thing, Chachmah. We don't want the jackpot. I want Chachmah. And Take, once we have Chachmah, then we can have wealth. Because we know how to use our wealth. Always Rabbeinu, Rav Gershon, from France, tells us this story. When people ask the question, why doesn't the Rebbeinu Shalom want me to make me a millionaire? Why? I would do so many mitzvahs with it. I would give them meiser. And I would give to yeshivas. I would build a yeshiva. So he says like this. He says the moshel. Once a child comes to his father and asks for something. Daddy, I want a bit of money. What for? I want to buy a cedar. Oh, of course, he's pleased. Of course. Which cedar do you want? How much do you need? Straight away he gives it to him. But if a child comes and says, Father, give me a bit of money. I want to buy. What do you want to buy? I want to buy a rope. A rope? What for? to hang myself. You, that's what you're asking? I hope to hang yourself. Of course not. And then he would come and send him to a psychiatrist. He says, Rabbeinu says like this, he says that if just imagine we become millionaire tonight. It's very hard to imagine the reaction. But one thing we know for sure. I'm pretty sure if I become a millionaire tonight, I'm not going to be teaching where I'm teaching now. Let us be honest. And I don't know if I would even give it this year here. And I don't even know if you tell me good Shabbos, I would answer you back. Because you never know what kind of shikarai can come to the head of a person once he becomes a millionaire. Becomes a balgaive, a fardorbener, a depraved one. Where will he go? Maybe you'll find me on Florida coast there. No one can know. Whom do we know is not going to react like that to wealth? It's only if a person is as wise as Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, who is so wise to ask only for Chochmah, we know that person is going to use the money for the good cause. Not to become... And that's why we see later on, after he became wealthy and so on, and even so, he was such a Chocham. And yet, we see in the end of his days, he was over. Since it is Chanukah now, it's the seventh day of Chanukah, I think the lesson of Chanukah should be this one. A person should realize the menorah, which is on the south, which is a remez, which is an allusion to Chochmah. Chanukah should teach us, as we spoke last time, it's a yom tov of chizuk in avodas Hashem, to appreciate Chochmah, to appreciate what Chochmah can give us. And instead of wasting our energy in different directions, here and there, let us pinpoint, let us direct our mind only towards Chochmah. And towards Chochmah means, as we said previously, the real Chochmah means, I want to be careful the way I behave now. Shlomo HaMelech said, why do you think I'm asking for Chochmah? You ask, but I've got enough Chochmah already. But I'm very careful the way I judge. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, every person is a judge. Now look, our Chochmah we have to have chizuk on is the same kind of Chochmah. Yiras Hashem hi Chochmah. The Chochmah of Shlomo HaMelech was not a Chochmah like that. If he knew the nature of people, he could master the midas. He knew exactly because he had learned it from himself. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, from my heart, which is as big as a fist, I know the character of every individual in the world. Study yourself, and you'll know others. And you'll be able to give advice. And you'll be able to counsel people, and to help people, to help them out. And that's what Shlomo HaMelech wanted the Chochmah for. To be careful now, I'll have blood in my hand. If I make a wrong judgment, money, what's money? A pound more, a pound less. But for some people, a pound more, a pound less is a lot of money. Can make the difference between starving or not. And Shlomo HaMelech was aware of that. He said, there's never enough Chochmah, Rabbeinu Shleilam. That's what the Medrash says. You ask me, what shall I give you? He didn't say, well, at any rate, I'll have enough Chochmah. He didn't say that. No, there's never enough Chochmah. Look the way we behave now. Do we behave correctly? The way we behave with the people around us? Are we always kind-worded? Do you say that? Kind-worded? Do we always speak in a gentle manner? Or sometimes we let loose and we speak not in a nice way? Or Noah's Devorim. Or Noah's Devorim, to hurt people with words. If a person doesn't have that kind of control, that kind of Yiras Hashem, so we need the Chochmah right now. We need that Chochmah. We need that Chochmah in Yiras Hashem, Chochmah. We need it now instead of thinking about shtusim, havolim, money. We should be ashamed, really. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Look, a child of 12 years old, Shlomo HaMelech, he doesn't ask for money, he asks for chokhmah. And what do we think the whole time? Money, how will I pay my bills? And how will I do this? Where should I get the money for this and for that? And I have to go for a journey. And mamish, kimat, every day. And then we receive the bills from the poll tax. From where will I get the money? And then we try to swindle ayin and aher. Because of money. Money directs our life. We don't care about the rest. Chas v'shalom. Some people can say lies. Some people can chas v'shalom, even go into prison just for the love of money. We should be ashamed of ourselves when we read about this Haftorah, Shlomo HaMelech. Besides, we are not even mechaven. There's no guarantee with all that we are going to become rich. Somebody told me that